Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. This is ACDT number 57. Today is October 13th, and we have a light agenda today. So basically, we'll go over some Fusaka status, then we'll pass on to discuss the gas limit updates, and then Amsterdam. And we also have another topic that we want to discuss in this meeting about the RPC testing failures. So yeah, let's just get started. Um, all right, on Fusaka, regarding the BPO fork updates, do we have any incidents, updates, or status that we want to bring up?
Uh, Not really. We have the next BPO scheduled for tonight. I think it's in a couple of hours. Yeah, and we have Sequoia tomorrow. Yeah, it's in 7 hours for the next BPO on Husky. We do see a bit of a drop in participation, but it's minor at this point. We expect a smooth sailing for tomorrow's fork, and the fork is on Sepolia is in 17 and a half hours. Last week we did a Sepolia shadow fork and everything was okay there.
All right. Yeah, sounds like we're moving along. Any insights from the client teams? Any concerns regarding either regarding either Holeshki or Sepolia happening tomorrow? All right, seems like not.
Yeah, I have one.
Um,
Sorry for the
yes,
interruption.
please. No
I
worries.
one thing I wanna like inform the all the client teams is we have a new release of MEV Boost, V1.10 Alpha 6. The difference is that at this point we've chosen to add support to fall back to the V1 blinded blocks API if the V2 blinded blocks API is not implemented by the relay. We initially chose not to do that because we wanted MEV just to be a proxy. But I think on further discussions and thought, we just thought this is a much better idea. So yeah, so MEV now supports like falling back to the if the V2 API is not supported for whatever reason by the relays. We've been checking with the major relays. They have added it. They should be ready. For Sepolia, the flashpots ideally should be ready with the V2 API. So yeah, this has been tested on DevNet 3. We've like tested by disabling like the V1, V2 API on DevNet 3, and I generally think seem fine with the relays with the clients. So yeah, just wanted to like inform all the client teams about it, and all the please like do update all the Sepolia validators to use this release of MEV Boost. I've put that in the Sepolia validators Telegram channel too, with all the information about the release. So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Perfect. Thank you. Just one question out of curiosity. How do you detect that B1, B2 is not supported?
Yeah, for now we've just like have a situation where if the return status code is greater than just like 4xx, like we fall back to the V1 API. Right? So usually if the API is not there, we get a HTTP status like 404 not found, and we fall back to the V1, right? But just for safety, what we just did was if the HTTP status code is like greater than 4xx, we fall back to like the V1 API. So, but like the relay itself is like borked, like then like even the V1 will fail and there'll be a mislog. So that we can't do anything about.
All right. Yeah, thanks for the context.
Yeah.
Anybody any opinion on this from client teams? Are we okay?
Yeah, so one thing is like client teams can choose. So I know some client teams have some like Lighthouse have supported like fallback, and some client teams are calling the V2 API from Fulu. Generally, like client teams can with this new change, client teams can ideally just stick to however like they're calling the V2 API. Like ideally, like MevBoost will handle all the fallback. Like so, yeah. Uh,
Excellent. Thanks. All right. And also, there was one comment from Prism. They have a new release out, 6.1.2, and the blog has been updated. So please take a look. If the version that you have here is outdated, please reach out so we can update it. And one other comment is Lighthouse, Viso, or Granting, do we expect a stable release before Hoodie? Anybody from Lighthouse, Vesu, or Granting in the call?
Yeah, so as I said for Besu, we are going to have a new release for Hodi and mainnet related to 60 million gas. Yeah, so the release expected to be out this week, and we'll share it as soon as we have it.
Got it. Thank you. Anyone from Lighthouse? Anyone from Grandin who wants to make a comment? Are we good there? All right, I think we can follow async. If not, okay. Any other updates regarding Beshki or Sepolia that we want to bring up? But yeah, Barnabas, do you want to give more context to this and just begin the discussion?
Yes, so the idea is that we will be dropping the named forks from the blob schedule in the Genesis.json file. We have already done this for Bezu and Nethermind, and Wrath and Aragon also seems to be fond of it. And right now, the only question is Nimbus EL and Geth. So the few PRs that are open are to remove Osaka, and also in the future, we just don't want to include Amsterdam in the block schedule either.
And just for clarification, this is only if the named fork does not update the values, right? If it updates
The named fork cannot update the values anymore on the CL side, not after
I see.
Calcon.
I see.
And that's why I'm proposing to remove this, because this is a redundant flag at this point.
Makes sense. Any comments on this? Should we move on with this? I think it makes sense. On the east side, I think we have to make a new release to make sure that we are not including the name forks, but I think it should be an easy change and we can have a release in the following days. On the client side, is there any concerns regarding this update? And one comment from Barnabas Marius. Is this okay to you? I think that you're only the one missing to comment on this.
Yes, we have not implemented it in Geth yet, but yeah, it's fine.
All right. Then I think what we'll do on the east side is also we're gonna make a new release and just to make sure that we can run the clients with static tests, and then we can move on to um, blessing granted. Yeah, and we can move on to update the nodes on the devnets, I guess. All right. Barnabas, any other comments or is this okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Thanks. All right. I think that was everything for Fusaka. And I guess we can move on to the next topic, which is the gas limit testing that we've been doing. I think Camille is in the call, or also anyone else who wants to chime in. But Camille, do you want to begin the discussion? Is on the updates on this topic?
Sure. So As you heard already from Bezu and other clients, everyone is kind of ready for 60 million for mainnet releases. And in meantime, we are focusing on stateful testing, which is the biggest, maybe not unknown, but the hardest thing to test right now. But I think that actually today I have a good milestone met, is that I'm running 3 EL clients on top of bloatnet in a reproducible way. So in the same way as gas benchmarks are doing. So for now, running Nethermind, Bezu, and Geth, having still issues with Erigon and Ref, so waiting for some help here on Stateless Research channel, so I can make all 5 major EL clients being tested this way. And Johan prepared Xen scenarios, actually 4 Xen scenarios, and for now we do not see any huge bottleneck. And those scenarios are not for sure the most performant ones out there. And for now, Nethermind is having the biggest struggles, but not like consistently. So just to give you an example, once some of the Xen scenarios are performing at more or less 250 megagas per second, and sometimes they are dropping significantly to something like 35, which is still relatively good and not putting any risk on 60 million gas increase for now. But I believe that we need to still spend much more time investigating that because it doesn't align really well with what we've observed on mainnet. So there's still some work to be done out there. But anyways, dashboard is set. 3 clients are running right now. I'm just doing some final fine tunes, and the only thing which is left is work on more stateful scenarios on top of mainnet. So at least the entire mechanism there is running.
Thank you. Yeah, great work on this. Any comments from clients on this? Do we have like a theory on why are we not seeing like the same benchmarks that we're seeing on mainnet?
So
Or
I have few theories for now. One will be that we are preparing some preparation blocks, then trying to spam with contracts to fill the caches, and later on we are doing the actual attack. And one client might cache more while the other is caching less, and for some reason the actual Xen path is warmer than expected, and maybe that's one of the things, but it's pretty hard to say, and trying plenty of things like including restarts right before the attack, or doing few thousand of the spamming blocks which are doing completely unrelated work and then attacking Xen, but it's pretty time consuming and taking some time to narrow it down together with Johan. Plus the hardware. I mean, we are using a hardware which is below the recommendations, but I need to compare with the nodes which were reporting pretty slow times on Xen to see if this is somewhat in common. So suspecting that maybe my hardware is a little bit better than from the nodes which were reported to quite slow times. And maybe we still need to spend more time to see if we can do something worse using Xen contract.
got it. Thank you. Makes a lot of sense. Any comments from other teams on this? Amasin, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. Are those blocks like exam blocks part of the of performance DevNet 2? Like they are really important as canonical blocks on that DevNet?
The baseline is bloatnet, not mainnet, so we use 2x state, but we craft all of the preparation blocks and then the actual attack block.
Okay. Yeah, I was asking just to see if we can help, in profiling those blocks from our side as well to see if there is anything to find from the profiling.
I can work with you to maybe hook up some profiling tools to see how what we can get from there. For example, trying right now to see if I can hook profiling tools from Nethermind to see how it will be going. Because it's not that easy just to take that block from mainnet and just recall it once more. Because actual Xen needs a few blocks to prepare, some hacking around timestamps of the blocks, because some of the functions from Xen are being able to be called after 24 hours. So once some block will be called on mainnet, you can just recall some functions and the result will be the same. We just need to do quite a few of the preparation steps to call it. More details are from Johan probably here.
I see. Yeah, we can do it, I think. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? There's one comment in the chat that the Xen content is already bigger in Bloodnet. So I think we are on a good path to trying to reproduce this thing the same as mainnet.
Very important note from me to EL clients will be like, if you see any interesting stateful scenarios which we can implement right now, because actually what is left right now is implementation. So you can just reach out us and tell what bottlenecks you see in your clients and what interesting things we can do to attack some specific clients in worse way, which might not be that bad for the other clients to try to stress that as much as possible. And also the warming up part for me is a little bit more tricky than on normal compute scenarios, because here what gets warmed is not only EVM, but then we have also loading of the data from disk to memory. And then also there is some kind of hardware warm up, which affects the results pretty much. So yeah, there are quite a few things which need to be considered comparing to compute scenarios where just simple block with invalid state root would give you proper warm-up, like which would be good enough. So here we have a few levels of issues which we need to solve. So if you see any possible solutions how to tackle that, just let me know.
Thank you. Yes, so please reach out to Camille. I'm guessing R&D Discord is the best way to approach. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the scenarios that we can implement. All right. If nothing else, we can move on to Glamster then. Sorry, Marcin, there was. Please go ahead.
Hi, I have one more thing which has chance to discuss before going to Amsterdam. We are doing analysis of Modex usages. As a quick introduction, we are doing traces of blocks under Spectra consensus rules and Fusaka consensus rules. We are artificially increasing gas limit of transactions before processing to because like Modex gas price is increased, and we think that everyone will take it into account before sending transactions post hard fork. So with these assumptions, we are looking for differences basing on debug traces. And we found a few hundred transactions which are failing after Fusaka. But it's all of them are have one pattern, the same pattern, and the same error message. It's approximately 1 transaction per hour, which is failing because of that. And I pasted error message is from account abstractions. And all these transactions are interacting with the same contract. It's entry point 0.6.0. I pasted 1 transaction as an example. And we suspect that it is because we are increasing the general gas limit of transaction. but inside of account abstraction transactions, there are user operations, which we suspect that after hard fork, we'll have new estimates with higher gas limits, and then it shouldn't fail, but it's like we suspect this. So we would like to confirm that this is the issue, and generally share the progress from this area. So yeah, it is our finding, and we need to confirm that it will be fine after Fusaka. We suspect that it will be, but we are not sure at this point about it.
Okay. Do you know, Marcin, if there's already a reference test for this scenario or similar? If not, we can investigate that for you. But if you know, yeah.
I don't think so. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, I think we need to investigate whether there's a reference test implementation for this or something similar. Anyway, any comments on this? If not, we can move to Amsterdam. All right. Thanks, Marcin, for the comment. We can start with a block level access list. I see who's in the call? Felipe. Who else? And Rahul. Do you guys want to kick up the discussion?
Yeah, I can mention over the weekend there were some of the test vectors from our release last week that were flagged for a couple of changes needed, but those have already been fixed and merged as of this morning. So I'm going to triple check if there's anything missing and try to get a release out early this week for block level access list.
Thank you. And also, Rahul shared the results of the tests that are running and passing on each of the clients. On the DevNet side of this, Barnabas, do we want to wait for 100% passing of the tests and then schedule the block level access list DevNet? Or what would be the next steps?
DB testnets are taken over by Stefan. Maybe Stefan can comment.
Oh, thank you.
I can see that again from this are doing pretty well. Mine should be pretty close. And they're still working on like revamping their implementation. There seem to be some improvements that they want to make. So I think we should have at least 3 clients working pretty well before we start the DevNet. And I think to your question, I think it would be good to have as many tests passing as possible before we start the DevNet, of course.
Absolutely. All right. So I think the next steps on this is trying to get the number of tests passing to at least, I would say, 100% before continuing. Do we know the nature of the tests that are failing, Rahul? Like, are these consensus tests or are these like other kind of tests that are failing? Rahul or Felipe?
For the DevNet tests?
For the spec tests.
For the spec tests, the ones that were flagged were out of gas issues that on the spec side, we had made some changes that needed to be returned. The specs got updated over the weekend and the tests got updated over the weekend. So they were generating some vectors that were not correct. And then we weren't properly validating on the test side. And so I made sure that we were using the right markers there so that we could catch it.
Yeah, and on the client side, do you know what's the reason why they're failing? I mean, rather than
Yeah, the vectors that were being generated were not correct.
oh, I see. Sorry.
For
All right.
the tests that I looked at, I'm not sure if this is the same as the ones being run on the DevNet.
All right. Thanks. Rahul, do we have like a link where we can see the results for each client on this? I think I got it here. Ah, thank you. I already shared. Great. Thanks. I think please take a look, clients, on this to see if there's any outstanding tests that are failing on your side that we need to that you guys need to fix. And please reach out to Felipe and Rahul also if there's any unknowns on the tests that are currently running, so we can get this to 100% and then we can schedule the local access list DevNet. All right. Any other comments or topics on block level access list? If not, we can move on to EPBS side of things. All right, who's the person?
I can try.
All right,
I
thanks.
mean, not much of an update. Just the client teams are still working on DevNet Zero implementations. It appears that DevNet Zero by the end of October is unlikely, just in my opinion. Progress is slowed a bit by like the off protocol payments discussion debate that's going on. I'm hoping that we can make a decision on this at the upcoming ACDC call. Small stuff, not a whole lot to talk about here. That's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Okay, yeah, thanks for the updates on this. Anything else on Glassdoor that is not related to block level access list or EPBS that we need to discuss today? All right, if nothing else, we can jump on to the last topic for today, which is the RPC test failures. There's a blog post in the E3 research site that was raised by SC Virgil regarding failures on the RPC test suite that we have in Hive. I see Sebastian on the call right now. Do you want to kick us off with this conversation?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks first of all for having me here, Mario. I'm Sebastian from Gnosis/Hopper. And yeah, I think we're all aware that Ethereum is trying to onboard a huge number of individual users. And yeah, that in that regard, we're quite aligned with what we do at Gnosis to build products that actually use an Ethereum chain, currently Gnosis L1. And in doing that, we kind of see, and that's why I'm here to kind of sound the alarm bells, kind of a increasing number of issues around specifically the Ethereum RPC layer. And I mean, just to take for a second a step back, right? How do we get actually many people to use Ethereum? Well, by Ethereum-based apps, right? And these app developers, unfortunately, they don't touch the network layer. They don't touch the consensus layer. And as a networking guy, I kind of hate to say that, but that is the reality. They only touch the Ethereum RPC layer. So if that one is kind of critically broken, then Ethereum is in a pretty rough position. And that is, as I outlined in more details in the post, the situation right now. So I think we made pretty cool progress to get us into a better space. So shout out, obviously, to ETH Panda Ops for the Hive test suite and so on. But we need more than that, right? So if we look at the Hive test right now, there's around 190 only on the entire Ethereum RPC layer, which is basically spinning up kind of a fake blockchain of only a few blocks length and then do like 4 or 5 tests on them. For ETH locks, for example, specifically, which is the example that I picked here, but I really only mean it to serve as an example of just how dire the situation around the RPC layer is. And so specifically, we see clients where locks just get swallowed and omitted. So, you as a user don't even know that you're missing state, which is a kind of catastrophic failure case for an Ethereum-based application that doesn't have any additional information. And yeah, on the one hand, you could say, well, okay, that's a client bug, just let clients sort that out. But I find it more interesting, and that's why I posted this blog here, because in the process of trying to get to the bottom of that, a few things were sticking out. So the first one is, this was not caught by any Hive tests, because they kind of test for very basic things, again, which is helpful, but we need to grow by many orders of magnitude beyond that. And the second is, Hive tests are failing. I think it is fair to say that client teams in many ways don't care too much if they fail, because otherwise they wouldn't have been over 50% red for several months at this point. And the third thing is, when engaging, like I talked to several client teams, and the interesting thing was there isn't even consensus. We do not have consensus on how Ethereum is exactly supposed to work, meaning we're missing standardization. And yes, I'm aware that we have the ETH execution specs, which has been helpful in finding kind of type mismatches and so on. But what I mean when I say that we don't have specs how Ethereum is exactly supposed to work, again, just as an example, from the ETH locks front, it is currently unclear, and clients have in the past made individual decisions on what happens if somebody tries to obtain locks, let's say ETH locks, on the wrapped ETH contract from Genesis until tip of the chain, right? That's obviously labor intensive, I guess computationally expensive, and the response size might be huge. So individual clients made individual implementation choices, such as cropping the results, erroring, just taking a whole long time, or building kind of bespoke indexing solutions on top of it, which has not undergone any EIP and is kind of individual innovation, which happens in parallel for every client team, which is clearly kind of suboptimal. So yeah, basically what I'm saying here is, from my perspective, looking at this, we are lacking two things. One is in orders of magnitude growth of what Hive is today, to kind of bring it up to, in parallel, I see it somewhat similar to how the web platform tests work. So the browsers that many of you are using right now has undergone over 2 million tests, right? So Ethereum is certainly not much less complex, so we need multiple orders of magnitude growth in these test cases. We need focus on the basic stuff. So if I look at what we discussed in this call, and if I look at the Hive test results, the cutting edge stuff is kind of okay, right? So the Fusaka tests are kind of all okay. It is the basic kind of, for example, RPC layer that is not okay. So that is focus. And then I think we need additional focus on, well, getting to consensus of how Ethereum is actually supposed to work. Because when I do talk to client teams, I also hear, well, Hive tests were basically just the Geth test suite. So of course, Nethermind or any of the others is not one-to-one following that. And we have our reasons for that, which is fine, right? I think many of these reasons are fine, but it just shows me we need to go through a consensus finding exercise of how Ethereum is actually supposed to work on that layer. And yeah, that's what I see here right now.
Thank you.
Happy to take it forward.
Thank you. So yeah, a lot of hands up. We can start with Marius.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a problem that we know about for a really long time, and we we at the Ethereum Foundation have also started hiring someone for exactly this purpose. But there have already also been a few proposals from, for example, Jolt, on how to create a new REST-based API in order to kind of bring the RPC into the 21st century, I would say. So basically, when the RPC was created, it was basically created for something like Mist, and the problem is that it's very hard to evolve it because it impacts so many people in the ecosystem, and yes, and also the standardization process is very difficult because you kind of like RPC is just a second smaller cousin to the normal consensus, and so client teams are not prioritizing it as much as the normal consensus. But as I said, I think I personally think it's a big problem, and I know people have been kind of a lot of people have tried to make this a priority and try to make the standards and have been burnt out doing that. For example, like I don't know, I think ETH Simulate is one of the examples where it worked, where we found uh, um, found a way to find consensus between clients and create a good spec, but a lot of the other things are not. Um, I also want to go like a step further in this. I think it would be good because like as we all know, nodes are not the same thing as they were 10 years ago. A lot of people are not running full nodes or like archive nodes anymore. A lot of people are running with history expiry. And in the future, what a node stores is going to be very different. So we will see more specialized nodes. And I think the RPC needs to reflect that in order to make it clear that these are calls that happen on the head of the chain. These are calls that require access to the history, and so on. And the last point that I wanted to make regarding the log indexing, Stolt has also written an EAP about that in order to get the log indexing that we built internally in Geth to get it into the protocol. The problem here again is prioritization of that against other features, and I think that is like dev time is very finite, and so yeah, it's definitely an issue that is on top of mind for me, and I hope to bring some resources from the Ethereum Foundation in order to get that going. But in the end, it's clients who kind of need to implement it, and yeah, I think client teams are stretched already.
Thank you, Marius. Lukasz?
Yeah, I have quite a few comments. So one, I joined the JSON RPC call actually recently, and the temperature check I got there that they're working on a very, very small and basic RPC spec that won't handle everything mentioned here, most of the things mentioned here. And actually comparing that to the current node implementations, nodes would be mostly already in that spec. Maybe there will be a very small changes in the nodes, and the bigger problems they are actually focusing on is the like RPC providers or like general EVM compatibility of a chain. So, for example, some L2s that have very custom and very non-standard things doing. So that's one thing. To make this extremely well standardized on each client level, yeah, that's probably money is the problem to actually build the money and motivation, because it's very boring work to build the whole the spec and the execute on it and create tests for everything. Moreover, some things I disagree that should be the spec. So, for example, Marius mentioned the get logs index they built. We built a different one. We will be releasing it soon, but our is not provable, and but our is faster, right? So it has some upsides and downsides compared to other things, and I don't think everything should be standardized. I think some things would be better to be left to implementation details, because different nodes can then have different advantages and disadvantages. Another thing, uh, a bit of problem with the Hive test is for us is that they are basically generated through Geth. So Geth is the spec, and while we agree that something between 95 to 99% of what Geth does is the best, and even if we don't agree, we most often align with what Geth does. There are very rare exceptions that it would be good to actually define the spec and potentially change something what Geth does to be better. And this is especially sometimes problematic for us if we return. And that the last thing is about the tests themselves being very basic. So, for example, in some rare cases, we want to return additional field because, for example, some of our users or customers requested it, but the test doesn't allow us to. We fail the test at that point, because the test says this should be the list of fields and you cannot return anything else, which in JSON RPC it would be fine to return something optional or something extra, but the test fails. So we have this kind of false negative in terms of testing. And okay, I had one more thing, but I think I lost it. Yeah, I know. So we have a list of failing Hive tests, and we actually are trying to kick down some of them, and I'm seeing it decreasing every week by a few instances. So this is something that Nevermind is working on and is prioritizing, but it is not as high a priority as, for example, all the consensus level changes. So, yeah, it is lacking, and it will be lacking compared to the core protocol of Ethereum. And yeah, one last thing, ETH Simulate was actually pretty well tested. And while still we fail some tests there, we are working on it. Maybe there will be some changes to the test here and there if we decide on that. I don't think we found that examples. We had one or two questions about if the test should be changed, but we decided to go with what Gev did because both versions were fine. Yeah, this is again circling back that Gev is the specs at the moment, which is sometimes not the best thing to have. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Lucas. Felix?
Yeah, I mean, I want to respond first of all by strongly disagreeing that Geth is the spec here. So the official specs are the YAML files which are contained in the execution APIs repository. And when it comes to the tests, it's very critical to say that yes, we generate the test vectors using Geth, but the tests are not the spec. The spec is the spec, and the spec is independent from the client. We use Geth because for us it was the easiest to set it up like this, and also because for most calls, so the testing methodology that is used for RPC tests is that some RPC requests are performed and the interactions between the test and the client are recorded. and then we replay these interactions against another client and compare the result. The comparison of the results has some special cases. For example, for the errors, we do not match on the error message. What we do expect the error code to be the same. And I feel like this is kind of critical because for the users, the message does not matter as much as the code. So, but even most of the differences in the clients is in cases where the request submitted by the test is containing something invalid. So basically, we are testing the limits of the spec in as few of the tests we have. So all of the tests where you are just like requesting something in the normal way, they are passing. It's mostly about with some exceptions, of course. But then for example, with Nethermind, most of the differences are in cases where, for example, the request has an invalid argument value, and then we expect the client to react with a certain error code, or we expect the client to detect this invalid argument, and instead it either accepts it because the parsing is too lenient, or it returns a different error code. And I feel like these failures in some way are less important than if it returned like a totally wrong value, but obviously it would be good to align. And for these things, I feel it's just a matter of agreeing on the correct error code. It's not so much like there isn't going to be a deep discussion. There are some other differences, specifically between Geth and Nethermind when it comes to the optional fields. For example, things like the total difficulty. We discussed it also recently. And I have to say that we still have to find a solution for that works in the testing. I am not against Nethermind returning the total difficulty. It's just that it's kind of hard to make it work with our current testing method, because the testing method is just to compare the outputs literally. For some calls, we do not compare the outputs literally. We have another method that is about basically type checking the response only. And for some responses, this can work. For example, for estimate gas, we do not require all clients to agree on the algorithm for estimating the gas usage of a transaction. The clients can actually each have their own method for that. So we only check that the result is a correctly encoded number as is required by the spec. So it's I feel like the discussion is quite nuanced. Like, I personally am the author of most of the existing RPC compat tests, and I try to choose them very carefully to exercise the behavior of the clients. As at the same time, I didn't want to introduce like hundreds of tests that would all fail, because when we got started to be more serious about specifying the RPC with the execution APIs and then also with the test suite, it became clear that it's going to be very demotivating for clients if they face like 300 failing tests and they will just never get fixed. So we have been very careful about slowly expanding the range of behavior that we are testing. We started very small, tried to make a test suite that just contains like 50 or 60 tests that really, are pretty much guaranteed to pass. And now we are at this point where like every so often I will just add a couple more tests just to see what's the behavioral difference in the client. And then we can, try to get them fixed. I did report over time also many of the failures to the clients, but it just, at some point also I gave up on that because it just seemed like it's not exactly a priority, and some of the things just turned out to be very hard to resolve or something. That said, there are some constructive things we could do. So we could try to improve the testing methodology by allowing, for example, certain optional fields for certain responses or things like that. Or we could simply have multiple test vectors which are allowable responses. The difference then is that we kind of have to manually check the responses to see if they are actually correct. And this is not easy. So I don't yet know what's going to be the answer. Definitely, we need to make some improvements. But yeah, it's been an uphill battle, and I'm actually pretty happy that for now, for the basic calls, we have quite some good coverage also of the edge cases. For get logs, it would actually be good to introduce more tests. So Sebastian, if you have suggestions for that, we have the repository where the tests are generated, it is very easy to actually add tests for this. And we could then very easily also verify the behavior. Maybe as a final note, some of the clients are currently not even, I guess for the RPC, all of the clients are somewhat able to load the test chain, but I see that especially, for example, for RETH, we have a lot of failing tests. And I don't actually really know. Yeah, I mean, we would really have to see, like, the client that's failing the most right now is Nimbus actually, and I don't really fully know why. For example, like there are some of these differences are like kind of hard to debug. So I guess we would have to, yeah. Again, I can only say that like the clients should really attend the RPC standardization calls, and then we can see what kind of progress can be made on that.
Thank you. Justin?
The next RPC call is in 6 minutes, so get excited.
Thank you. All right. I see who had the. Lukash, do you want to go? We only have 5 minutes though, but we can keep discussing this on the RPC call. So I think it's a great thing that
No,
we're discussing this
I'm
here.
fine. I added some things into the chat.
Perfect. Thanks. Felix, that was the hand up from the last time, or do you have something else to comment?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't lower. I'm sorry.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, I think it would be nice if someone can share the link to the next call. It's gonna be happening in 5 minutes. We can keep the discussion running in there. So I don't think we have reached an agreement at the moment because it's a very nuanced discussion. But Justin suggested that we bring this up into ACDE, which I don't think is a bad idea. And also, yes, just to close for now, I think everyone that is interested in this discussion, please join the next call, and also please join ACD, and we can also follow up the discussion in there. Anything else from this side? I think also from the specs perspective, what I can say is that we have this moment. I think at this point we are reaching a point where we need a formal, a better specification model, perhaps. So it might be worth to see if we can bring the ideas that we have put into yields on the consensus side of the specs into the RPC, perhaps to make the testing language more expressive, and we can even generate better tests with this. So yeah, I think that discussion is still open. We can see if that would help in the long run. But yes, there's a ton of things to do. I don't think it's gonna be like very easy to get this going, but it's doable definitely. All right. Yeah, thanks Justin for the Zoom link to the next call. All right. Anything else that can be discussed in this call? Yeah, and thanks Sebastian for bringing up the issue and starting the discussion. I think this is a really important topic. Thanks for bringing it up, and also thanks for the very well written post in the research. It's been a great resource to read, and yeah. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining the call. If there's nothing else, we can close the discussion here. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.